Good afternoon, y'all. JD Rogers here. Just wanted to jump on here and talk about something that I think I need to talk about. Before I get started, I'm going to qualify mostly of what I'm saying right now. One, most Republicans are not going to like what I'm about to say, um, and that's okay. You don't have to. It's the truth as I see it. It's the truth from what I have researched, and you can take it or leave it. Honestly, I really don't care at this point. It doesn't matter to me. I think it needs to be said. I think something needs to be said along these lines this year, especially. Um, so before, so that being said, if you're a Republican that's feelings are easily hurt, then you might want to keep scrolling. If not, uh, welcome to the Big Boys Club. Um, the second thing I'm going to say is that Donald Trump is most definitely my choice for president. I want to make that very clear. None of what I'm about to say actually changes my choice for president. I just think that it needs to be said. I dislike hypocrisy, and I dislike people making sensationalizing things that don't need to be sensationalized. And so that's why I'm making this video, just to highlight some areas that need to be addressed. This area is on the Republicans' dog whistle. Democrats have a dog whistle. Liberals have a dog whistle. We all know what it is. It's climate change. There's no truth in it whatsoever, but they tout it every election season to rally their base. Republicans do it as well. Republicans' version of climate change is illegal immigration. It's hollow. Very few threats have actually been realized as a result of it. None of any incredible consequence. Um, so let's dive into the numbers, shall we? So the first thing we're going to cover today is that they cause crime. Okay, the migrants cause crime to go up in areas, and most of the areas that I have seen crime go up in, with the illegal immigrants, have been in cities that have been controlled predominantly by Democrats. They haven't been controlled by Republicans, and that's a big deal. Because that tells you a little bit about what's going on there. The Democrats are probably they're doing it to make the Republicans say things that will ostracize the migrants. So, what do the numbers say? The numbers say that the majority of migrants, which are Latins, from Latin America, the Caribbean, places like that, most of them are are not the least likely to cause crime, but they're definitely not the top. They're about two away from the top. They're 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 only about one away from the bottom. They're in the middle. They don't cause a whole lot of crime. And most of the crime that they do cause, according to statistics provided by the FBI and local sheriff's offices and municipal law enforcement agencies, most of the crime is pretty much compartmentalized in their own community. So domestics, things like that. Not a lot of violence outside of that area. Most of what we deal with, domestics and DUIs. That's really a lot of it. I can tell you that as a former cop. That I can tell you for a fact. 9 times out of 10, if you're interacting with someone who is a migrant, it's going to either be DUI or a domestic. It'll be one of those two. There are other times you will, but most of the time, that's the two that you're going to see them for. So, if they were violent, or if they were caused crime, even petty crime, we would see crime go up in areas specifically where they come across the border and are destitute. So we'd see a spike in crime in the crossing areas, and so we see a spike in crime in El Paso, Tijuana, or Del Rio, uh, Eagles Pass, one of those border towns where people are crossing, right? Well, honestly, it's not there. We do see some crime elevations, but as a general rule, the crime elevations are like vagrancy or petty vandalism, breaking and entering, trying to get basically to get food or something. It's not, and even the Bible says that if a thief steals to feed himself or his family, he shouldn't be hated, but he should pay back. So just to throw a little of that in there, guys. They're coming across the border. They're obviously hungry. They're trying to find something to eat, and so yes, they do break into some of those places. But as far as violent crime, no, there's not a whole lot of violent crime from the migrants. So that's number one. That's number one straw man right there that we have just lit on fire. They don't cause a whole lot of crime. Yes, we know that apparently there's been some cats disappearing in Springfield, but you know, the thing of it is I saw a guy post a video a while back, and he was showing some Haitians in Haiti, and they were actually eating like dirt, and he was saying they'll eat dirt. You don't think they'll eat your cat, and there's a lot of truth in that. We're taking people from sometimes very, very abject poverty where they have nothing, and we bring them to a place and they see these animals wandering around. Someone who is not a first world person doesn't necessarily look at that as, and has never really looked at that as as a pet or as something. They look at it as food because they're starving. And that's always been, and then it may be a delicacy where there are countries in Europe where they eat cats, just so everyone is aware. It's not just it's not just an Asian thing or a Latin thing. Okay, they actually do it in Europe. So there's that one. It is what it is. I don't know what to tell you about cats, guys. The second thing that we're going to cover is that they negatively affect the economy. Well, do they even affect the economy? Well, the statistics show that they do. So to start things off with number two, what we're going to talk about is the growth of the GDP growth as a result of the immigration. In 2021, 22, and 23, and it's projected to do it in 24, the GDP has risen 0.1% every time. No, I'm sorry, has risen 1% every year as a result of the migrants. So there's that. Also, another thing is that I hear a lot from Republicans is that they don't pay their own way. Well, they kind of do. So, but according to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics in 2022, immigrants contributed $579.1 billion to taxes. They contributed, undocumented immigrants contributed $35.1 billion. So before we move any further, let's touch on documented versus undocumented. Documented means that when they came across the border, they interacted with Border Patrol. Border Patrol took and processed them and then released them. Okay, that's a documented when they come across the border. Undocumented is ones that come across the border. The Border Patrol catches them on surveillance videos. They catch them on ISR feeds. They catch them on some kind of surveillance equipment. But there's no one close enough to go and actually make contact with that person. So the person makes it through the border and into the United States without any interaction with law enforcement. That's an undocumented. So basically, they know they're here, but they don't know where, and they don't know why. They just know they're here. So that's undocumented. That's the determining factor. It's not they did it the right way or they did it the wrong way. Okay, they're both technically doing it kind of the wrong way, but one actually met with law enforcement and the other one didn't. So undocumented contributed $35+ billion to the economy. In Georgia alone, they contributed in Georgia alone, they contributed last year $1.6 billion to the Georgia economy. Just to Georgia. They last year they contributed approximately $194.5 billion to Social Security. They contributed approximately $53.6 million billion dollars to Medicaid. Okay, um, so what we see in areas where there are a lot of migrants that are working, we see the economy go up in those areas. They are contributing to jobs, they're spending money, so on and so forth. So contributing to jobs is a big one. Um, Approximately at least a fourth of all agriculture jobs are handled by immigrants. Um, at least a fourth of every construction job is handled by immigrants. About a third or better of all commercial kitchens are run by migrants or immigrants. Um, 15% of all registered nurses in the United States are immigrants, and 27.7% of all chief nurses' aides are immigrants. Okay, so they are most definitely a contributing factor. Almost every vegetable that you buy in the supermarket that is from here in the United States was picked by an immigrant. Almost every hotel staff, um, maids, housekeeping, in other words, linens, cooking, all of those jobs in the hotel industry are handled by predominantly immigrants. So my point is that they are most definitely a contributing demographic to society. They are not coming over here taking anyone's jobs. We have been pulling people from Latin America up here to do these kinds of jobs for probably the past 80 to 100 years. So they're not taking anyone's jobs other than other Latin jobs. Most of the people coming into the border are from Latin America or the Caribbean. So that's the majority of them. There's different ones that are coming in, but those are predominantly it and have always been predominantly it. I've said it before. The reason that we see people coming from the Caribbean and Latin America is because for the past 100 to 150 years, America has been in the Caribbean and Latin America, keeping the economies low so that when we import coffee, when we import bananas, pineapples, etc. to the United States, the cost is low for our people. Unfortunately, what that does in other countries is it crashes the economies and the people can't afford to live. So, which brings me to my third thing, and I hear this a lot from conservatives. Well, why can't they do it the right way? Why can't they do it the right way? That is a very, very, one, it's very privileged to say something like that. And I'm not talking about white privilege, because privilege can be experienced by everyone. I've heard black people say this too, heard Asians say it. It has nothing to do with your race. It has everything to do with how you've lived. And to say that is a very ignorant statement. Why can't they just do it the right way? Okay, I have a personal friend of mine, who runs a chain of Mexican grocery stores, right, here in the Middle Georgia area. And Miguel is a second generation American, but he was born in Mexico. His dad was American, his mother was Mexican, and so he eventually got his citizenship here to the United States. He is an American citizen now. However, and this is the number I'm wanting to talk about right here, I'm wanting to touch on. Miguel's citizenship to the United States cost approximately $80,000. $80,000 over the course of 12 years, guys. $80,000 over the course of 12 years. Now, if $80,000 is the going number, let's just cut that in half. Let's just say it's $40,000, okay? Let's talk about some numbers. The average person in Guatemala makes about $13 a month. American. Okay. The average person in Cuba makes approximately $14 a month in uh, salary. And we can go throughout Central and South America. In Costa Rica, the average nurse makes $5 an hour. My point is, $40,000 is how much it costs to do this the right way, and you're making $13 a month. How long do you think that it would take a person to actually do this the right way? You see what I'm saying? It's almost impossible. What should have happened is if this was actually an issue for Republicans and Democrats alike, but especially for Republicans, Republicans would have made this much easier at one of the times that they controlled the presidency, the House, and the Senate, and they did at some points throughout the years. But from George H.W. Bush to Donald Trump, this has been an ongoing issue, and no one has really done a whole lot. I think that George W. Bush did a little bit to it, but as far as anything else, nobody has really even addressed this. But I can tell you this, expecting someone who makes $13 or $14 a month to pay $40,000 to $80,000 in immigration fees over the course of 12 years while they're living in abject poverty and their children are starving is an incredibly unchristian and an incredibly ignorant view. The reason these people are coming to the United States, the majority of them, is because of the fact they're coming here because their children are starving in other countries. And you as a Republican want to tell that person to go back to his country and to live in that country and as his children starve, and to do this the right way over 12 years. By the time he actually gets citizenship, his child will have starved to death or be forced into labor or prostitution. Get out of your bubble, guys. Get out of your bubble. These people are destitute. Do we not read the Statue of Liberty anymore, where it says, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free"? And yes, I know that many of them were doing it the right way, but of course we were loading them on ships and pulling them over here just to galvanize them into the military at multiple occasions throughout this country's history. So don't get on your high horse. The issue is, guys, is that this is something that needs to be fixed. It's something that needs to be fixed. And what Pope Francis was talking about when he said that it was a mortal sin to prevent people from immigrating, what he's talking about is people who are at the border begging for asylum, for you to turn them away is a sin. Let us hearken unto our Master's words when he said, "I was naked and you clothed me. I was hungry and you gave me food. I was a stranger and you took me in." That word stranger in the biblical term is the Jewish term goyim, which means unclean. Jews weren't even supposed to marry these people. They weren't even supposed to share a meal with many of them. And Christ likens himself to that. But see, we've had a problem because, see, the Democrats have realized the Republicans are scared of this. And under Obama, President Obama signed an executive order that will, in time, give illegal immigrants the right to vote. This scares Republicans. Republicans are handling this the entire wrong way, though, in my opinion, because the Republicans are ostracizing this group of people, the illegal immigrants, when they should be embracing them. Because when I look at illegal immigrants, the majority of the ones that I've talked to are either Catholic or Protestant Christians. That's pretty conservative. They like large families and hate abortion. It's also pretty conservative. They believe in a strong patriarchal role. Well, that's pretty darn conservative. They hate government intrusion and love freedom. Shoot, that's pretty darn Republican too. I mean, the thing is, do you realize what percentage of our military are made up of Latins and immigrants? It's monstrous. It's huge. These people have been fighting and dying for our country for hundreds of years. Sounds pretty conservative to me. But see, the Republicans, instead of embracing these people and saying, hey, look, you might not be here for the right reasons, but let me show you how this can work out for both of us. Instead of doing that, they told them, go home. Well, they're not going home. They're here to stay. And the best thing that I can encourage Republicans to do is just start finding some common ground and start luring and start pulling them to your side. Because if you don't, we won't ever win another election. The issue is that these guys and gals that come over here are freedom-loving people, and many of them are from dictatorships. Many of them are from the same systems that you constantly are saying the Democrats are trying to get you into. Don't you think that these immigrants that are coming across the border and are now that you're now ostracizing could probably add a fresh light to this? They're hardworking people. They are almost exclusively into blue-collar jobs. So that's my opinion, guys. I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to tell you what I think. I think that illegal immigration is the Republican dog whistle, and I think that it's far less of a problem than what Republicans love to say it is. I think that there's a lot of lies that are brought up in it. One of the funniest ones that I like. So Republicans and conservatives are huge supporters of, women and children, first, off the ship first, men being the leaders, men being the protectors and stuff like that, which is a natural role, which it should be, right? And then, this is what's funny to me, and then, I'm like, oh, almost everybody showing up at the border is a military-age male. Okay, let me put this into perspective for you guys. Okay, so I live here in Georgia, right? And if I had a wife and a family, and we weren't doing well financially at all. We were starving, right? We were having a hard time, but I knew that if I could make it to Texas, or I could make it to, say, New York, or I could make it anywhere, several states away, miles away, that it would completely change my family's life. I would be able to provide more for them, and I would be able to take them somewhere that my children would have the opportunities that most people in our area at the time could not afford. Do you think, one, that I am going to just say, well, I would go over there to Texas, but, if I cross into Texas, it's illegal? Really? You're going to let your kids starve because it's illegal to cross into Texas? That makes no sense. It's not American, in my opinion. That is not an American view. That is a pacifist, whipped doggy, sheep style answer. You take care of your family regardless of what you have to do. Period. Number two, do you think I'm going to drag my wife and kids hundreds of miles on foot to Texas? Or do you think I'm going to go first, establish a footprint, and then send for them? That's what I'm going to do, right? That's the protective thing to do. That's the manly thing to do. For me to take it on myself to go and then to send for the others. That's why you have military-age males showing up at the border, guys. Their families are in South America, Cuba, and other places waiting for them to bring them over. Stop with the sensationalizing. It's not a good look. Stop. Let's focus on the economy. Every American out there can agree the economy is crap right now. Let's focus on fixing it. And then at some point, sooner than later, let's actually have some comprehensive, lasting changes made to our immigration policies and our immigration steps and our immigration costs. Y'all have a wonderful Saturday. Go Team Red. But keep your head up. Keep it on a swivel. And call out sensationalizing and inconsistencies wherever you see it.